to my drawing tutorial. I'm kind of sad here because this is going to be my last video in the series and perspective drawing lesson. I almost feel kind of bad erasing this because it took so much work last time, but we got to move on. So today, as you know, you're going to be learning how to draw a stairwell, if you haven't learned that already, because your final perspective drawing lesson before the actual final is going to be drawing the high library. And so I'm going to go over the technique for drawing a staircase in perspective drawing. This one's going to be probably the most in-depth of all the tutorials I've done so far because it's going to require a lot of overlapping lines. And that's going to be a very involved process. So I definitely recommend, if you haven't yet in class, really take it slow during this lesson because I'm going to go over kind of a lot really quick. But if you really slow down and kind of look at what each step involves, it should be pretty self-explanatory. And it kind of all clicks and makes sense at the end. All right. A bit more clear. First thing I'm going to do is create a single point. I'm going to make it kind of a bit off-center on the left here. This is going to be a single point perspective. So you can hold your breath because it's not going to be one of those advanced multi-point perspective ones. This is just a simple one-point perspective interior. And now it's kind of hard to know exactly where to begin when you're drawing stairs because it really depends on whether or not you're starting from an actual image or you're just doing this from memory or looking if you're actually there. Because really if you're looking north at something, it's going to be single point, but if you're looking at an angle, you're going to get kind of a corner view where things look like more of a 2-point. So it really depends whether you're looking north or you're looking kind of at like a northeast kind of view. A northeast is going to have more of like a 2-point perspective, and if you're looking directly at something, it's going to be more of a single point perspective. So keep that in mind whenever you're drawing. If you want to make things easy for yourself, I'd recommend always looking at something straight on, because that's really going to affect how difficult the drawing will become later on. So on this one, we're going to be looking pretty much straight on at a staircase. And this is, again, not going to be a staircase that actually exists, because I'm just going to be using our perspective techniques to create this just out of the blue. So the first thing I'm going to do, just to keep it simple, is I'm going to make a wall right here. I'm going to make that wall very close to our vanishing point. I'm going to make one big wall right here, right in the front of our image. And because this is a wall we're looking at straight on, we're going to erase the horizon line behind it. We're going to keep it just as a reference point. Next thing I'm going to do is create a straight square wall. This is not going to be in perspective because we're looking at it straight on. And again, I'm going to erase some of that horizon line, but keep a little point just so I know where the horizon line is for reference, because it's going to be important later on. And I'm going to create a third wall right here. So this is all inside. Now this wall right here is where our staircase is going to be. That's the wall I've decided to put the staircase on. If you're drawing from life, you're going to have a much different situation. You may be looking on a staircase that's going up a flight of stairs, like that one drawing I showed in class a couple of weeks ago, or you may be looking down a stairwell. Either way, you're going to have a single point. The stairs are kind of getting smaller because we're going to have a foreshortening effect like this on the stairs. So whichever way you look at it, you're going to have to know foreshortening when you're drawing stairs. That's why I call it more of an involved process, because you really kind of, you don't really get a break when you're drawing stairs. So now that I've got my walls, I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to create equal dots. They're going to represent my steps on a wall that is straight. So these two are going to be my candidates for straight walls. I'm going to call this straight wall 1, straight wall 2. And we have our perspective wall, which I'm just going to call that PS. And on a wall that I know I'm looking at square, I'm going to draw a bunch of points that are all equally spaced. You want to take a lot of care to make sure that when you're doing this, these are all as close to being equally spaced as possible, because it's going to be a huge problem if they're not later on. Okay, put the PS down here. And now next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw lines from each of these points representing our steps to our little vanishing point right here. And they're going to stop at this wall. So we're going to start at our straight wall number 2 and end on straight wall number 1. Making sure that we're drawing a line that's intercepting both our vanishing point and each of these little lines. I'm going to stop right there. Actually, just realized this wall isn't quite right. Just going to fix that real quick. Make that more straight. Oops. Okay, that's a bit more accurate. Do the same thing with this point. Make sure it is stopping at this wall. Same thing with this point. This point. This point. This point. Trying to maintain that equal spacing as much as we can. Okay. Now we have a set of guides that are going to help us as we draw each step. This is going to be a bit of a challenge for anyone who's not really been practicing much freehand drawing in the past. If you're kind of new at that, or kind of new at eyeballing perspective, this may be a bit challenging, so try to take this step by step. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my top step, and I'm going to pick where I want it to end. So let's say that the stairwell has a hole in the second floor like this. Let's say I'm on the first floor looking up to the second floor of a building. Let's say this is just another wall. Box that in. Okay. So right now I'm going to be looking up a staircase. We're going to have foreshortening happening in 3 different places. The first kind of foreshortening is going to happen with each step as they approach from the floor this way. We're going to have foreshortening on the top of each step going here. And we're going to have kind of the baseboard underneath each individual floorboard, which is protruding a bit, foreshortening underneath each step. So I'm going to kind of look at this for a second and just think about how I want to do this. So I want to have the final step end. Well, I want to pick where that's going to end first, because that's going to affect the distance between each step. I want to kind of eyeball it so my first step starts kind of equally like foreshortened to our ending point. So I kind of, maybe I don't want to go all the way back because it's going to be a very long looking staircase. Maybe I'm going to pick a point a little bit closer, like right here. And that's going to be the top of my final step. So very carefully, I'm going to draw a line from the top of my step, intercepting my first line that we drew here with this row. I'm going to drag that down and make a very, very small cut right there. I'm just going to stop, because that's all I really need right now. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of make a mark. Now I'm on this line. I'm going to make a mark on that line like this. So we're going to have kind of a little L shape, a very small L, that's being pulled in perspective toward our vanishing point. Now I'm going to pull down from there, and we're going to have kind of like a lightning bolt symbol, like this. And now that's going to be, you can kind of see that, it's going to be our first step down. Next thing I'm going to do, and we're going to have some overlap here, so try your best if you're writing in pen maybe, which I wouldn't recommend for this, but to try not to overlap on any of the lines if you don't have to. I'm going to try to kind of make like a little bit of a dashed line right there. Bring that over. And feel free to cut into this line. Or this is at the corner of our, I'm just going to call this corner 1. Corner 1. This is going to be corner 2. Corner 3. And corner 4 here. I'm going to have this kind of go a little bit past the wall of corner 1 here, so that's going to kind of go back. And you can see here, in that lightning bolt shape, maybe I can even zoom this in, you can see that if we, once we start erasing things, we're going to erase the part of that that's not visible. So we're looking at the kind of the base of a step, and what's hidden behind it is going to end up getting erased eventually. Don't do this yet, but keep in mind that the guidelines behind each step is going to get erased. So we're keeping that just for just for saving time and not making a mess. Because if we erase too many guidelines for the sake of kind of rushing it, we might end up in a place where we forget where a step's supposed to be, and then it's just you're gonna be eyeballing it, and we're gonna be left with a drawing that's not quite right. So now where I've got that vertical line on the lightning bolt, the bottom of the lightning bolt, intercepting our second line, we're gonna stop there, and now we're gonna pull across like this. And congratulations, you just finished your first step. We're going to pull a line down like that. And right here, which is barely visible, but we're going to kind of draw a line down right there just to show that that's part of the step as well. So this part is going to be, the second floor. And this is the first floor, and that's the first step we've taken down from the second floor. So that's going to be, I mean, most stair treads are about, I think 7-inch max height, riser height, and the max tread depth is about 11 inches. So if this is 10 feet, let's say that's 10 feet. We have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 steps, 10 feet divided by 15. I'm going to say maybe like 6-inch max tread. So if we had a guy standing on this step, maybe half his foot would be going over the step. It's be very, very small steps. Okay, so now with that in mind, with that step finished, from that point where the this flat part of the step is, because we're looking at a flat part here and a flat part here, we can't see the tread yet because we haven't crossed our horizon line. Once we cross that line with our steps, we're going to start seeing the tread, but right now we can't see it because we're looking at the top of the overhang part of the staircase. I'm going to pull from that just like we did here. We're going to have kind of a W now. Point, 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 point. And the lower parts of the W are going to be where the corner of the step is, like this, where the tip of your toe would be when you're walking on it. And the part where your heel is going to touch is going to be this part, the very end of the W. So if I draw a W, like this, we'd have toe of your foot here, heel of your foot, like that. So right there, where you're not going to be able to see it once we erase, that's where your toe is. Kind of keep that in mind when you're drawing a step, because it can be easy to lose track of which step you're on, like what side you're looking at. So I'm going to pull across. We're going to have overlap once again here, and you can kind of see that. We're going to drag from our vanishing point and intercept the point on the wall here where the nose of our foot is, or the top of the tip of our toe, and it's going to stop right at this protruding bit. Actually redraw that. It's a bit more precise. Yep. Don't worry if it doesn't quite make sense yet. You'll start to see a pattern once we go on. So I'm going to pull down from that. And now we have like a W with an extra line, like this. And right now we're on the corner again of the step. Or on the part where your tip of your toe is going to go in. And now that I kind of get a feel for how that small it's going to be, I can actually start from this side, and I want to kind of maybe mark up where I want that to look like. So remember, foreshortening, these are going to get smaller as we get closer to the vanishing point. It's up at an angle, but they are technically getting slower, or excuse me, smaller. And I kind of don't like, I kind of give myself a whole lot of room. I can see that, so I'm going to erase that and try again. I'm basically doing this part so I don't accidentally end up drawing a bunch of steps and realize, oops, I don't have enough room. Because you don't want to end up having to go off the page somehow. So I'm going to draw that. Be very careful not to over or under foreshorten. And there we go. It looks a little bit curved actually, so I'm going to pull that back a bit. And when I'm happy with kind of where I want to start and end, I can draw a line from our corner number 4 here, where the base of our first step is, to the very top of the stairwell. And this is going to intercept the top of every stair, every step. So it's going to go like this. And I'm going to do the same thing with the top of our staircase right here, down to our corner number 3. I know a lot's going on right now, but try to just hold it together and kind of keep your mind clear here. Yes, I need to make that wall a bit further back. Just going to adjust that real quick. Okay. So now we kind of have basic stair shape kind of going with the wedge shape of the stair. So now it's kind of like a ramp, a big giant frame of a ramp or a hollow ramp. So we have corner 3 to corner 4 is going to be just a straight line, corner 4 to corner 2 straight, corner 2 to corner 1 straight, 1 to 3 straight. But we're going to call this maybe corner 5 and corner 6. Because that's going to be the top of our staircase. I'm going to put a little dot there just to emphasize. And now if we draw a point from C5 to the line going toward the vanishing point that's starting from corner 3, we're going to have essentially a right triangle that's in perspective here. So this is the lowest point on the floor directly underneath the top of our staircase. I'm going to pull across right here to the point just underneath point 6. I'm going to draw a line from point 6 kind of as close as I can get to the vanishing point line from corner 4 to our vanishing point. All right. And right now you can kind of see we have 2 right triangles that are the left and right side of our staircase. I'm going to kind of need to make that thicker just so it's easier to see. Now we have our basic stair shape. So right now I can actually, if I want to, erase this back part because I'm not going to really see that. The only really valuable information we need still is these lines here, and we have those pretty much. So I'm going to erase everything that's not directly inside, or everything that's inside of this box here, we're going to erase. Erase that. And now I'm going to start drawing lines from the points where this diagonal line is going through each step over to this diagonal line. So I'm going to put a little point where the nose of each tread is going to be. And I'm going to draw a line from this right over, and I'm going to stop when I reach our diagonal line between C5 and corner 3. like I'm playing Battleship. Try to keep that straight and stop at the diagonal here. I'm going to go up one step. Going to go up another step. Going to go up one more step. Up another step. Can't tell you how much pain my shoulders are in from doing this for 3 weeks. Making sure each of these lines is parallel to our C5, C6 line. And if you did this right, you should be seeing these getting closer. That's normal. So don't worry if these are getting, if it looks unnatural, that's just foreshortening doing its job. Smaller still, and yet even smaller. Almost done. And we're at the final step. Okay. Give your arm a little, shake it off, give your arm some rest. Right now, I'd say we're about maybe 3/4 the way done with this entire stairwell. At this point, you can honestly erase this back square, but I wouldn't even touch that yet. If you're writing in pencil, or if I was, and if you were, I would recommend just writing in pen over the finished product, and I'll show you what to do at the end. But we're not done yet. We have one more extra step we have to do. We have the top of each step. We don't have that little corner bit, which we actually want to add right now. And we don't actually have to do the bottom of each one, because after these steps cross the vanishing point, or excuse me, the horizon line, we're not even going to see the top of the tread. So really we only have to do the stair treads base for each of these. We only have, well, I only have 5 really. So I'm going to do the bottom of this step, our first step, which is still on the first floor, or I guess ground floor if you're from the UK. Intercept those 2 points. Intercept those. And now these are getting painfully thin, so you're not even going to see these anymore. And that is pretty much it, because this is where your foot is going. And you, after you're past your eye level, which is where the horizon line is, you're not going to be able to see. So if, let's say this is 5 feet, which it's not because that's different, but assume that wasn't there. Assume this is 5 feet right here. These are huge steps. If this is where your eye level is, you can't see above these because that's impossible. So really I have to draw the treads for what we can see, which is below our line of sight, which is intercepting the horizon line, because our eyes cannot see in an arc, obviously, because light doesn't work that way. So, oh crap. And now, this is probably the hardest part about drawing staircases, is that you have to erase all the guidelines which you drew. If you're doing it in pen or pencil, it's easy, just draw in pen, then erase the pencil. But in my case, I kind of have to go through these little minute bits and erase the bits I can't see. I'm trying my best to not ruin this. All this stuff that's being foreshortened behind the staircase is not visible. Maybe these are old stairs, I don't know. They have a lot of damage now. And now to make this an ADA accessible staircase, I'm going to add a railing. This part is going to be pretty simple. I'm just going to draw a line that's parallel to our staircase guides. I might keep these because those look cool. And let's see. Okay, so 10 feet, it's going to be 5 feet. Most handrails are about 3'6" off the floor, so I'm just going to draw from here. That's going to get foreshortened a bit, but in a different direction. Can make that equal on both sides. And that will start to get like smaller, so it shouldn't be exactly parallel. That was a bit of a mistake. You should make it, imagine like a right triangle from this to a vanishing point line from this corner down. That should be getting smaller by a bit. If it doesn't look quite right, you can always mess with it and just kind of improvise. Keep in mind that should be getting smaller. All right. So we have successfully made a staircase from level 1 to level 2. This is level 1, and this over here is going to be level 2, if you can kind of see that. The next thing I want to do is maybe, there's not much to do really. You could add some shading, but it's going to vary based on where you are. I mean, right now, I probably should have drawn this maybe more centered, but this kind of illustrates how perspective changes on a slanted surface, which we haven't done much of yet. Except for maybe our last perspective drawing where we drew that 2-point perspective of a campus building. I'm going to actually draw some lines down like this, just to show that these are right angles. The devil is really in the details here. I want this to look more like a staircase than a ramp. I think I mentioned a couple episodes ago that I'm not a big fan of drawing brick. If you already have lines here, let's just continue with this and say that this is a brick wall, because this is our last drawing. I think I want to end on a good note, so I'm going to make this look as good as possible. Let me erase my numbers here. Actually, well, I've got it like this. I'm probably going to mirror this on both sides. Making sure to keep this as straight as possible. Since this is called a straight edge after all, these lines are parallel. Remember that these lines I'm not getting foreshortened because we're looking on that straight on. I'm going to go ahead and quickly redraw these ones I missed on the left here. Keep that as close to being parallel as possible. Last one. Okay. I'm going to have that go down my vanishing point on this wall too. this kind of quick. I'm going to overlap that railing because I can always draw the railing again. I'm going to be careful not to erase my stairs though. Oops, what am I doing? On second thought, maybe bricks aren't so bad. Maybe staircases are actually worse. It'll be worth it in the end though, because this will look beautiful. Your hard work will always pay off. If you work hard, keep a positive attitude. Okay, now for the easy fun part. Well, we can use the straight edge too to make it more even. Want to alternate between these. Want to have brick, no brick, brick, no brick. Like that. All right, beautiful. Now we're going to try to follow this pattern. So this one's going to be small, small, small. And now we're dealing with perspective, so we still want to follow the rules of foreshortening as much as we can. I would definitely space these out as much as you can when you're close, because as you get farther back, they're just going to get closer and closer. So I'm going to make these really long while we're close up, and progressively get smaller, smaller, smaller. So that's how foreshortening works. The same thing on this side. I want to keep these kind of more squished together because less of this wall is showing than this side. So we're looking at an angle, so this is going to be more visible and therefore less stretch than over here. Feel free to make these very close. We want to have an equal number of bricks on each side, but they're closer together here. That makes sense. think one of the coolest things to look at in perspective is a zigzag. It's moving diagonally and being foreshortened at the same time. Produces a really trippy effect. Just going to redraw these rounds real quick. Maybe I'll add more detail to this. Might add a table right here, kind of protruding from the wall. Draw a plant from that. I put like a little painting right here. And I've kind of lost my vanishing point. Remember, if you ever lose it, just kind of follow the flow of the lines in perspective. You can see that this line is going this way. These lines are kind of going, yeah, right there. Add a bit more detail to this. There's not much of a flow going on, but if you really want to add some more, actually, to contrast all the horizontal lines, I'm going to do some floorboards. So I'm going to erase these points. That's not really necessary anymore to have. I'm kind of keeping this spacing right here equal because I know they're all intersecting at the same rate, kind of. I guess rate isn't the right word, but they're all intercepting on the same plane right here, so they should be equally spaced when they meet the wall, or in this case, the floorboard. Floor riser, excuse me. And so we got riser, tread, very thin tread, and then all the risers because we can't see the treads. I already know the spacing now I want, so I'm just going to kind of do this. Some people may think it's unnecessary to add this much detail to a drawing, but you can make a very simple drawing look excellent by adding just a bunch of texture detail. and of course trees. When in doubt, add trees, unless you're indoors, in which case don't add trees. Add plants. Making sure that all these lines are intercepting both the point on the ground and the point of my vanishing point. Oops. It's getting very, very foreshortened now. To the point you almost can't even see between them. Again, I'm going to add maybe some lines between the floorboards. And we only really need one line right here. Just like I did with the brick, I'm going to alternate. So the next row of these is going to be either further back or closer. And I'm going to make sure they're not right at the same point. So maybe I'm going to start right here. Oops. As I like to do with all my final drawings, I like to beef up the edges just to really show where things start and end. Maybe I want this to be a giant header beam. Might put like a little bolt there and there. You put some like wood grain texture, like a knot in there. Very minus on the underside there. It'll make like a, nope, some brick texture showing through. Don't want that. Forgot one leg on the chair actually. Go fix that. Maybe there's some buds on where this plant is. Might want to add more of a wall right here. Of course, there's going to be a ceiling on this floor too. I might stop that wall just shy. Keeping in mind that my vanishing point still exists and applies to everything that is close and far away. These very far back walls. I'm going to go down into a hallway, let's say. Maybe you want some pictures and stuff up there. Maybe there's like a door over here, which is barely visible from the top. This top of a door we can kind of see over there. Maybe there's a light. Remember that rule we found about finding the center point in perspective? Just draw an X between any points on a parallelogram or rhombus or whatever. And then we have our center point. So I'm just going to draw a little fixture right there. Maybe we got like a fan going. Maybe we'll add like a cornice kind of thing. And before I accidentally erase any more bits, I'm going to call that a finished drawing. I hope you all enjoyed this perspective series. I hope you learned a lot and that you'll be able to use that for your next assignment and on the final. So thanks again everyone for tuning in. My name is Joseph Wunderlich, and I'll stop it from there.
Thank you, Joseph.